Hey everybody, Joe here from Dice&Decks channel. We're going to get started with a pre-release Battle for Zendikar Swiss draft. Um, just got back from GP Madison last night. Unfortunately went 4-3. I was very close to, I actually should have won the last match that I lost, so it would have been 5-2. Still would needed 2 more wins to get into Sunday, but I did like the deck that I had. I played Sultai, low curve aggro for the nice thing about this format is that if you play well, you can pretty much combine any other strategies that you want. You can play the processors with an Eldrazi with allies if you want to. You can play tempo. You can play ramp. You can play pretty much whatever you want. So we're gonna go ahead and get started here. And this is the first draft that I've done, so we'll kind of see where we go. Actually on Saturday I had 2 of the Woodland Wanderers, and he was very good, even with just the 3 colors. But as a 5/5 Vigilance Trample for 4 mana, even by himself, he's a 3/3 Vigilance Trample. If you just have the 1 color. Other good picks. So I really like flying in this format because there's not a whole lot of it. I like to play tempo. I don't know what this, and I don't know what all of these do. So this is 6 mana for 6 power. Evolving Wilds can be good. This Merc Strider is great for tempo. Rush of Ice obviously is great for tempo. I like the Wavewing Elemental because it's a big flyer. Nettle Drone can be very, very good. I think we're just going to start off with the Woodland Wanderer. It was very strong, great ground beater. Not too much else that I can say about it. It was just really good. We don't have to be married to it. We don't have to stick with green if we don't want to. We can move off into something else if something else catches our eye. Rare here is Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, which is not something we're going to be taking. So there's a rally mechanic here. Find when you cast color spell. So this is an enchantment. So taking turn 3 off to play an enchantment that's only going to deal 1 damage to a creature or player when you cast other devoid things, probably not what I'm looking for. Oracle of Dust, 5 mana, 3/5. Trying to stay with green. This guy's actually pretty good. Can be a finisher at 6 mana. Oh, the fight. We're going to actually take the fight card. Because if the Woodland Wanderer can get pretty big, instant speed fight will be really, really strong. Fight and block and do all kinds of other shenanigans with it. We'll take the fight card first. The Beastmaster is probably okay as well, but Breaker of Armies, good target to fight with, but I don't have a lot of ramp yet. This card actually could be okay to process the exile, but I don't have a whole lot to put things into exile yet. Complete Disregard is actually pretty good. There's an Ingester. So the Ingester, like the Mist Intruder with the Void Attendant actually works really well to continue to make Scions, which does ramp you to things like Breaker of Armies. Spell Shrivel is a good counter spell. I'm a huge fan of green-blue. I'm just not really sure which one to go with, and there's just a generic. Let's take the Void Attendant, I guess. See if we can manipulate that to ramp us a little bit. This card is really, really good. The Giant Mantis, 2/4 reach, locks down almost all of the flyers in the format until you're talking about the rares or the really big, like, yeah, even the 3/4. I mean, it has landfall, so if they have landfall trigger, you can, it'll get past the Giant Mantis, but that's about it. The rare is an ally encampment to land. Doesn't look like we're playing allies yet, so probably not going to jump into that. The Territory of Bailoth, It was a good landfall option, but I feel like there's going to be bigger, there's always going to be big fatties, especially in this format, more so even in this format than anything else. So taking a value creature with Giant Mantis that holds down, even holds down the air, is actually going to be really good. So I'm going to take that. And views of the elements. Don't think we're going to take this Converge. That's not as good as the Woodland Wanderer, so let's take a look at other options. I do like the Devastator better than a lot of the other Eldrazi. It has Trample. Instead of just being able to chump block things with 1/1s, just being able to trample over is really, really powerful. I might consider the Wavewing Elemental or the Mist Intruder, actually, here. Again, flying. I do enjoy flying. I'm going to do the Mist Intruder to work with the Void Attendant, possibly, first. And it's a little bit earlier drop, so I think the Wavewing Elemental will go later. The Reclaiming Vines is okay, but yeah, the Mist Intruder is going to be fine. So we have Call of the Scions, which is a good ramp spell. 2 1/1s that can sacrifice to add mana to the mana pool. I do like that. I haven't decided on Salvage Drone if I like that or not. 1/1, and then if it dies, you get to loot. It's okay. I do like Rush of Ice a lot. The tempo option. I don't know if we're going to be a full tempo deck yet, though. So I'm going to do Call of the Scions right now. But Rush of Ice is one of my favorite cards. If it was Clutch of Currents, I definitely would have taken it instead. But so Gruesome Slaughter can be really good. We don't have a lot of big Eldrazi or colorless creatures currently, but it is something that we're looking like we could go that route. So we could speculate and take it, and it can be a pretty big blowout with colorless creatures, because you can tap and just destroy their board. Otherwise, there's Seek the Wilds, which replaces itself with a creature or a land, which is okay. But I'm going to go... It's a first draft, so I'm just going to go big and see what we can do. So we're going to do Gruesome Slaughter. So I just got done watching Pathway Arrows destroy Alex Stevenson from Seems Good Magic. Sorry, Alex. So I'm going to take Pathway Arrows here because it seemed like it was ridiculously awesome. I do like Oracle Dust can be a looter, which is fine, but I actually, if I didn't take Pathway Arrows, it would probably just be Blister Pod. I think Blister Pod is really awesome, but Pathway Arrows is going to be the pick. So we could do Rush of Ice or another Call of the Scions. If we're going to try and pick up big creatures in packs 2 and 3, I think Call of the Scions is probably better right now to give us another ramp option. I do like the white, red, and blue tapped lands. I'm not a huge fan of the green. The green one is great on turn 1, don't get me wrong, but outside of that it's not super awesome. But the blue one is incredibly powerful, and the red and white ones for pump options are also very good. I'm not a huge fan of the black one either, but we're going to do Seek the Wilds. So yeah, so if a creature's tapped, you can lock it down for another turn, which is pretty awesome. I think I might take Spell Shrivel. I know we got a lot of cards at 3 mana, but with everybody else trying to go really huge with their mana, it might not be too bad to have some options. And counterspelling for making them pay 4 or more when people are playing huge spells is pretty good. Set Exiles lands. Let's just take this guy. His first strike. Something I don't want to have to deal with. So still don't want to do Fuse, but Reclaiming the Vines, I'm not, sad about having that. Lithomancer's Focus actually is a pretty good combat trick. I know combat in this format isn't something that you'll probably see a whole lot of cool things, but... So speaking of ramping, Endless One seems like something to ramp into because it's always on curve. Definitely going to reserve that. We'll look at. So we have a foil ally encampment, bladed cataract, which is actually pretty good late game to draw some cards. The Firemental Mage, Menace is a pretty big ability. I do like this card a lot, because for 3 mana you can start attacking on turn 3. Gideon's Reproach obviously is a great removal spell. Touch the Void, that's pretty good. Kozilek's Channeler would be something I'd be interested in as well after the Endless one, just as a way to ramp again. But this guy will probably sit at 6 or 7 mana, probably. He'll be a great target for Gruesome Slaughter. So we're going to go ahead and take that. Cryptic Cruiser. Okay, so that's the... Oh, so this one allows you to tap down something you have things in exile. I would want to see if we can get more things to put stuff in exile first before we start jumping into that. Retreat to Kazandu is okay. I don't know if I want to go to another color yet. I mean, with the Woodland Wanderer, it seems like I want to go to a 3rd or 4th color even, but I haven't seen much for mana fixing yet. I'm leaning towards Retreat, I think, actually, over the Cryptic Cruiser, just because I think most of the retreats are pretty good, and making creatures bigger is going to be pretty nice. So I played the Eyeless Watcher this weekend, and I wasn't a huge fan. Probably just going to take the Territorial Blight Baloth if it's the curve better. I still think like the Ruin Processor, I can get at a later date. Rush of Ice is still... I wish the Rush of Ices were a clutch occurrence. I would have taken every single one of those if they were a clutch occurrence. But Turn Against is really, really powerful. I have to be careful of that because that is in here. Now that we've seen it, I'm just going to be mindful of that. So, Oran, Reef Invoker. I actually might end up taking this guy. Still not much to see as far as having us go from one direction or another, or adding another color, especially. So it's really between the Coral Helm Guide and the Reef Invoker. Coral Helm Guide can make a creature so it can't be blocked, which is good. But this guy can also is a little bit tougher in the early game, and then at 8 mana you can make him a 7/7, which is also pretty powerful. So I think I'm gonna go this way, but it could go either way. So Royal Spout is really, really powerful. That's something to keep in mind. Actually, I think I'm just gonna go with Incubator Drone, a 2/3 and a 1/1 that can ramp us again. That's probably your best bet. I would actually like to play this card if I found any way to do any mana fixing, but as of right now, I don't see much. So now that we have the Call of Scions, Incubator Drone, we definitely want to start filling out, I think, some of our bigger creature options. I still would like to see a couple other ramp spells as well, but maybe I'll just go with another Giant Mantis, because that card's really good. So Culling Drone, Demon's Crest. So, like, here's a good removal spell, but don't have like an Evolving Wilds or anything. Ruin Processor. I like the Devastator for 1 more mana because it has Trample. I mean, yes, this can gain you 5 life, which I've seen that be an important factor, but I think I'm just gonna take the Giant Mantis. Having the flying blocker is just really powerful, and I still think we can get the big creatures later if we need to. So Swell of Growth. How much is the Awaken on this? 7? Yeah, 7 mana is quite a bit for Awaken on that. I'm leaning towards Swell of Growth. It's a combat trick, and you can also ramp from it if you need to. Sometimes you just need to put a land into play on your opponent's turn or something like that, which can be pretty good. So we're going to do Swell of Growth. Oh, here's a Blister Pod. I really do like the Blister Pod. early chump blocker, add mana. Not too much else to say about it. I think it's just really powerful. Still not a huge fan of the salvage drone. I might take the plummet for the sideboard first, actually, over the salvage drone, because I don't know if that's really going to make the deck. We'll do this in sideboard. So here, wow, we have some options here. So Spell Shrivel, the 3 mana is kind of cluttered. I think Scour from Existence or the Fertile Thicket are probably our best bets. And I'm leaning towards Scour just as a removal spell for right now. I've not doing a draft, not really knowing what to expect. Kind of just trying to cover all of our bases. I'm gonna take the Skyline Crusade. We have enough other 1/1 Eldrazi things that we can work with, so I'll take the first Strike Eye again. Probably take Boiling Earth, which will kill all of our 1/1s. Retreat to Valakut is really good. Oh good, we got a Dispel for our sideboard. That's the interesting thing about people taking the lands, it seems like. The Zendikar lands, because they want the full art lands. They're leaving regular picks at the end, which is awesome because then I can take things like Dispel. So, Brutal Expulsion, I really like this card, but it would require us to go into red, which we're not quite there yet. Oh, so this gets us an instance or sorcery back, which is pretty decent. Just want to see if there's anything else that... another Territorial Blight, Baloth. It's like this could get us back Scour from Existence or Gruesome Slaughter. I think I'm going to take the Reclaimer as a way to buy back something useful. We do need to focus a bit more on creatures, although Call of Scions are, 2 1/1s, so these kind of are creatures, but it's also kind of a ramp spell. I'd like a few more big fatty creatures. Although I think Shambling Vent, I don't do the lookup to see how much things are worth very well, but Shambling Events is probably worth something. Although this is Rally for 6 in our color. There's a Clutch Occurrence. So I could take some tickets, or I could take a card that I really, really like. I'm leaning towards taking the Clutch Occurrence and just seeing where that gets us. But Shambling Vents is very, very strong as well. I'm going to take the Clutch Occurrence though. So now we can take the Wavewing Elemental. It's a big creature, big flyer. Over the Rush of Ice. Evolving Wilds would actually allow us to splash another color if we needed to. It'd also allow us to get the Woodland Wanderer a little bit bigger. And same thing with the natural connection, but I think I still need some other creatures. So Zada is really, really powerful. We don't have enough really pump to make that worthwhile. Take the Territorial Blight, Baloth maybe. Have another bigger creature to pay off some of our ramp. So we can go from like 3 to 5 pretty easily. Another Pathway Arrows. Probably just the Merc Strider. Or another Oran Reef Invoker, but I know the Benthic Infiltrator is pretty decent. Especially as a way to ingest, and it can be a good blocker as well. But, yeah, let's do the Benthic Infiltrator. A little bit earlier creature. I wouldn't mind another Mist Intruder, but don't know if that's going to happen. Yeah, pathway arrows, we're definitely gonna have to see how we can abuse that if possible. So I really like the Cloud Mantra. Another fight card. I think the Cloud Mantra is probably what we're gonna go ahead and take. Sanctum of Ugin. Yeah. Don't think we're gonna be abusing that very often. So having a good flyer will help us out. So we're kind of an early game leading into a good mid-range. Our removal is pretty anemic, unfortunately. But, oh, here we got a Devastator. So we're going to go ahead and take the Devastator as another thing to ramp into. You know, our curve goes a little bit high, but that just means that we get to utilize the Call of Scions and those sorts of things. Prism Array, unfortunately, is pretty not cool. I don't, yeah, not something we're going to take. Reclaiming Vines, again, okay. The Awaken on this is, like I said, pretty expensive. And it's 2+1/+1 counters. I mean, that does make a 6/6 for 7 mana if you put it onto a land, I suppose. Yeah, maybe we'll try that instead of putting it at the 2 mana slot. So here, another Territorial Baloth. Just have landfall. So I could take another counter spell, which I don't know if, I mean, it's another removal option, or I could take the Beastmaster at 6, which gives everything +1/+1. But I don't have any other allies to really follow that up with. I'm going to take another removal spell, I think, just as a backup. Rush of Ice I'm happy to have. This offshoot actually can be pretty decent. Gaining 1 life every turn after turn 1 can gain you 6, 7, 8 life. I played practice for the GP, and it was pretty ridiculous how awesome, how much life my friend was able to gain. I'll just take the Pathway Arrows. I'll take the Sanctum Ugin. So we're gonna have to make some cuts and build the deck, and then, ooh, I'll take the Seek the Wilds. Kind of see what kind of deck we're gonna come up with here. So probably won't play both Pathway Arrows, but definitely play one of them. Blister Pod for sure. And so like the Rush of Ice and the Clutch of Currents, I want them to be more at the 5 mana slot. So we'll move those over there to kind of make the curve look a little more realistic. I don't think we'll play both Seek the Wilds. And this would move over to 6 mana as well. The retreat to Kazandu. So if I don't play the offshoot, I don't know if I'm gonna play the retreat. Cloud Manta, Woodland Wanderer. So the Woodland Wanderer isn't as powerful as it might be. I don't think we need to play all 3 Territorial Baloths, but so we still need to make 7 cuts. So this is a part where I'm probably not going to be as good as I need to be as trying to cut down. I'm going to cut Rush of Ice to keep that in the sideboard. Clutch Occurrence is just way stronger, especially as far as tempoing something. So what do we have for removal? So these kind of are creatures, kind of ramp. I'll probably play Seek the Wilds over Swell of Growth, but it'll leave us only with 3 2-mana spells. Reclaiming Vines, I guess, it's, the artifact or enchantment, not as big a deal. The land is interesting because if I'm playing against somebody with Awaken, it's actually really awesome. But if I'm not, then it's really not that great. So I think that might actually be more of a sideboard card than anything. And here's with the Gruesome Slaughter, unfortunately, we don't have a ton of colorless creatures that have good power, except for the Devastator and the Endless One. These put out 1/1s, and these are counter spells. This is a 1/4 that's a 2/5. So the Gruesome Slaughter is probably going to go as well. So I think we should look at cutting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we need to cut one more spell. Probably the Swell of Growth, because it uses a spell to just put another land into play, and this at least gets us a land or a creature in our hand. And I liked Woodland Wanderer, but I don't know how powerful it's going to be with our current deck right now, because we don't have a lot of other colors to work with. But even by itself, it's still a 4/4 Vigilance Trample, which can fight well, and it can do some other things. So maybe we'll keep that for now. It just seems weird cutting the rare. That's pretty good. So we need to cut 3 more cards. The thing about the Ulamog's Reclaimer is that he actually is more powerful because of the Call of the Scions. Can get back those as well. So the 2 Ingesters, the Void Attendant can make 1/1s, which is good for blockers and stuff too. It's not just to ramp. It can make, and that is one thing to be said about Gruesome Slaughter. If I have a bunch of 1/1s out on the board, and I Gruesome Slaughter, that can, they can just all tap to gang up on one big creature or something, just tap to kill something. But that doesn't seem as, seems like too perfect of a scenario. I think maybe we'll cut 1 Territorial Baloth, because we'll have other stuff to do. And maybe 1 Spell Shrivel. I mean, it's one of our only only removal spells, unfortunately. So I don't know that I want to cut, but I'm probably gonna have to. And maybe 1 Call the Scions. So we have mana ramp here. Not necessarily mana ramp, but mana guarantee here. Mana ramp there. Potential mana ramp there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we only have 4 mana ramp spells, so I don't know if I want to cut those. I'm going to cut one of the Mantises, maybe. Just hopefully, with the Cloud Manta, Miss Intruder, Waving Elemental, and 1 Mantis, it'll keep the skies from hurting us too badly. So let's see what Magic the Gathering has for land 8/9. Yep, we don't have much. We don't have any double mana spells, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, 8/9 is a good split. And we have our first Battle for Zendikar deck. Hopefully it works out well. I'm gonna go ahead and submit that. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording here and see you guys in round 1.